vidhiyate. A material object itself composed of an essential ingredient creates another material object through transformation. Thus, one created object becomes the cause and basis of another created object. A particular thing may thus be called real in that it possesses the basic nature of another object that constitutes its origin and final state. One may understand the purport of this verse through the simple analogy of a clay pot. A clay pot is formed from a lump of clay, which is itself prepared from the earth. In this case, earth is the original ingredient forming the clay lump, and the clay lump is, in a sense, the original cause of the pot. When the pot is destroyed, it will again assume the designation clay and ultimately merge back into the earth, its original cause. In relation to the clay pot, clay is the beginning and final state. Thus, the pot is called real, for it possesses the essential characteristics of clay, which exists before and after the existence of the functioning instrument known as the pot. Similarly, earth exists before and after the clay, and thus clay may be considered real because it possesses the essential characteristics of the earth, which exists before and after the existence of the clay. Similarly, earth and other elements are created from the Mahat Tattva, which exists before and after the existence of the elements, which may be considered real because they possess the essential characteristics of the Mahat Tattva. The Mahat Tattva is ultimately the creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the cause of all causes, who exists after all is annihilated. The Absolute Truth is the Supreme Lord Himself, who step by step gives meaning and character to all that exists. So, this is Sankhya Yoga for you. You have to use your logic to come to arrive at the conclusion that it is Supreme Lord who is the cause of all causes. I mean, because for us it seems like a tedious thing, but when you're studying matter and then you're trying to come to a conclusion, so this is the analysis. Just like the pot is made out of the clay, and the clay exists before and after the pot, and it gets the quality of the clay. So that is why it is real, because it's made from a real, um, it's got the characteristics of clay, and clay itself is coming from the earth. So earth is the cause of the clay, and in the same way, earth is real because it's got the characteristics of Mahatattva, and Mahatattva itself came about because Krishna. I mean, someone has to create it. So they come to the conclusion that ultimately the creation of the Supreme Personality of God is the cause of all causes. So finally, starting from matter, they come to the conclusion there has to be God. Prakritir yasyopadanam adara purushapara sato abhivyanjaka kalu brahmatat tritayam tva aham. The material universe may be considered real, having nature as its original ingredient and final state. Lord Mahavishnu is the resting place of nature, which becomes manifest by the power of time. Thus, nature, the Almighty Vishnu, and time are not different from me, the Supreme Absolute Truth. Material nature is the energy of the Lord. Mahavishnu is his plenary portion, and time represents the Lord's activity. In this way, time and nature always subservient the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who creates, maintains, and annihilates all that exists through the agency of his potencies and plenary portions. In other words, Lord Krishna is the absolute truth because he contains all existence within himself. So everything is real because it is coming from Krishna. That's what it means. Because the Mayavadis say nothing is real, this is illusion, this is a dream, and so on. It is real because it's coming from Krishna, who is real, supreme absolute truth. So this, whatever we are experiencing, is real. Only thing is it's temporary, and that's why it's unreal or an illusion to think. It's an illusion, not that we are not going through those experiences. It is unreal only because it's temporary and it's all wound up back to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's saying the material universe may be considered real, having nature as its original ingredient and final state. And so that's what nature is coming from Krishna, which becomes manifest by the power of time. So otherwise, everything has an origin. Time starts ticking as soon as the Mahatattva is formed, because there it has got a definite period of existence. Brahma is created immediately, and then Brahma's age 100 years, it has to finish. So time has to start ticking immediately. So that is why the time comes. Lord Mahavishnu is the resting place of nature, which becomes manifest by the power of time. Thus, nature, Almighty Vishnu, and time are not different from me. So, Krishna is saying that they are all non different from me because it's coming originally from me. In other words, Lord Krishna is the absolute truth because he contains all existence within himself. That is why we should only surrender to him, because everything exists in him. He is not out of false ego saying only me, only me. In the material world, we have this tendency, everything, not someone especially who's got a lot of false ego and is very, control freak and wants to dominate. Then he'll say only me, everything should be centered on me. But Krishna, when he says that, it's the absolute truth. Everything is coming from him. Sarga pravartate tavat पौर्वापर्येण नित्यस महान गुण विसर्गार्थ स्थितियंतो यावदीक्षणम. As long as the Supreme Personality of Godhead continues to glance upon nature, the material world continues to exist, perpetually manifesting through procreation the great and variegated flow of universal creation. Although the Mahatattva, impelled by the force of time, is the ingredient cause of this world, it is clearly explained here that the Supreme Lord is personally the only ultimate cause of all that exists. Time and nature are powerless to act without the glance of the personality of Godhead. He creates unlimited material variety for the sense gratification of the conditioned souls who try to enjoy life as the children of particular parents and as the parents of particular children throughout the 8,000,004 lakh species of life. So time and nature cannot act without glance of the Lord. And that is reality. Matter cannot act. How can it act without some, spirit behind it? And we just think we can manipulate matter and everything will be fine. We can accomplish, and then people are very surprised. Why is it same formula I use, different people should get the same, if the same kind of success by the same kind of activities, and yet there are so many differences. Everybody doesn't get the same way because it is dependent on Krishna's glance. And that is why the more we are surrendered to Krishna, understand our relationship with him and depend on him in every matter by itself cannot produce things. Like, for example, we take medicine or we do something, we take a treatment. We think we put all our faith in the treatment. See, I'm doing all this. That is why my body will become okay. No, actually, the reality is that it's by the mercy of Krishna. Medicine also has its effect only by mercy of Krishna. So we should never forget that. And we must always be dependent on the Lord, and neither should we stop worshipping. Now my body is giving me so much pain, so let me first treat it. But without Krishna, the body will not get completely cured. So always. And that's why you see, Guru Maharaj has told us all to pray to Dhanvantri, recite the Dhanvantri mantra. So wonderful, right? the medicines, the doctor or the astrologer said that you should chant this for the cure to take place. All treatments are being given. That's what Guru Maharaj said. I am doing all my treatment. Now it's up to Krishna to do, to cure him completely. That's in his hands. He is very, very sincerely doing everything he's supposed to do. He doesn't say, I'm transcendental, so I won't do. He's doing very humbly. He's taking all the medicines and the diet restrictions and the exercises. So much body consciousness. In the beginning, he used to joke, I'm not this body, I won't take medicine. And I mean, just sometimes he would joke. And then who would force, no, Guru Maharaj, but you are in this body, so you must have. And they had to force and feed him. So, like that. But then Krishna is the ultimate cause. Even whatever treatment medicine you may take, his glance has to be there. Viran maya sadhyamano lokakalpa vikalpaka panchat panchatvaya visheshaya kalpate bhuvanai saha. I am the basis of the universal form, which displays endless variety through the repeated creation, maintenance, and destruction of the planetary systems, originally contained within itself all planets in their dormant state. My universal form manifests the varieties of created existence by arranging the coordinated combination of the five elements. According to Sridhar Swami, the word Maya refers to the Lord in his form as eternal time. Yeah, ultimately, of course, it's Krishna, but here he's saying, I am the basis of the universal form. So, Krishna in the form of time, the universal form, it shows because it keeps on showing how in the past it was created, maintained, destroyed, created, maintained, destroyed. All that you can see in the universal form. We see the description in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna saw that so many people were entering his mouth and being destroyed, and he was so disturbed. Who are you, Krishna? He asked, who are you? He asked this universal form, and he said, time I am, the destructor of all except for you Pandavas. So the time only manifests the Vishwarupa, because that is what material world is all about: creation, maintenance, destruction. Creation, maintenance, destruction, and all that is there in the Vishwarupa. So it is time who is showing this, what is happening. अन्ने प्रलीयते मर्त्यम् अन्नं दानसु लीयते दाना भूमौ प्रलीयन्ते भूमिर्गन्धे प्रलीयते अप्सु प्रलीयते गन्ध आपश्च स्वगुणे रसे लीयते ज्योतिषी रसो ज्योतिरूपे प्रलीयते रूपं वायौ स च स्पर्शे लीयते सोऽपि चाम्बरे अम्बरं शब्दतन्मात्र इन्द्रियाणि स्वयोनिषु योनिर्वैकारिके सौम्य लीयते मनसीश्वरे शब्दो भूतादिमप्येति भूतादिर्महति प्रभु स लीयते महान् स्वेषु गुणेषु गुणवत्तम ते अव्यक्ते सम्प्रलीयन्ते तत्काले लीयते व्यये कालो मायामये जीवे जीव आत्मनि मय्य जे विकल्पापाय लक्षण no atma kevala atmastu vikalpapaya lakshana. At the time of annihilation, the mortal body of the living being becomes merged into food. Food merges into the grains, and the grains merge back into the earth. Earth merges into its subtle sensation, fragrance. Fragrance merges into water. Water further merges into its own quality, taste. That taste merges into fire, which merges into form. Form merges into touch. Touch merges into ether. No, air actually. Ether finally merges into the form, merges into touch. Okay, there is one thing missing. Maybe form merges into air and air into touch. Touch merges into ether. Ether finally merges into the sensation of sound. The senses all merge into their own origins, and the senses all merge into their own origins, the presiding demigods, and they, O gentle Uddhava, merge into the controlling mind, which itself merges into false ego in the mode of goodness. Sound becomes one with false ego in the mode of ignorance, and all powerful false ego, the first of all physical elements, merges into total nature, total material nature, the primary repository of the three basic modes, dissolves into the modes. These modes of nature then merge into the unmanifest form of nature, and the unmanifest form merges into time. Time merges into the Supreme Lord, present in the form of the omniscient Mahapurusha, the original activator of all living beings. That origin of all life merges into me, the unborn Supreme Soul who remains alone, established within himself. It is from him that all creation and annihilation are manifested. The annihilation of the material world is the reversal of the process of creation, and ultimately everything is merged to rest with the Supreme Lord who remains full in his absolute position. So, reversely, when creation happens, we know, but at the time of annihilation, the mortal body of the living being becomes merged into food. Food merges into grains, and grains merge back into the earth. Earth merges into subtle sensation, fragrance. So from the gross, it goes back to the subtle. Earth was the last thing created, and now earth merges into fragrance, and fragrance into tea, into water, and water into taste. Taste, because objects of the elements and their objects of, I mean, their quality. So all this merges back. What does it mean? The mortal body of the living being becomes merged into food. Food merges into grains. Huh. Unless, of course, the food, they mean um, the body becomes merged into food. So, I don't know, food to food. There's nothing explained here about that. I don't know. Food merges into grains. And maybe because the body itself is maintained because of eating food. And so the body merges into food, and food is produced from grains. So the food emerges into grains, and grains are produced from the earth. So it again merges into the earth, and earth merges like that. Okay, text 28. Evam anvikshamanasya katam vaikalpiko brahma manaso hridi tishteta vyomnivarko dayetama. Just as the rising sun removes the darkness of the sky, similarly, this scientific knowledge of cosmic annihilation removes all illusory duality from the mind of a serious student. Even if illusion somehow enters his heart, It cannot remain there. Purport: just as the brilliant sun removes all darkness from the sky, a clear understanding of the knowledge spoken by Lord Krishna to Uddhava removes all ignorance concocted by the material mind. One will then no longer accept the material body as the self, even if such illusion temporarily manifests within one's consciousness. It will be driven away by the resurgence of one's spiritual knowledge. So, um, it all the ignorance goes away concocted by the material mind. Because one will then no longer accept the material body as the self, because he is saying how it is produced and how it is destroyed. Even if such illusion temporarily manifests within one's consciousness, it will be driven away by the resurgence of one's spiritual knowledge. That's why spiritual knowledge is so important. Otherwise, because even though it seems very clear, I mean, how is it that we really, really believe we are this body up to the last, till the time of death? Also, people are mad after sense gratification. So, that is only the illusion. But then it can be driven away by the resurgence of one's spiritual knowledge. Esha Sankhya Vidhi Prokta Samshaya Granthi Bedana Pratiloma Anuloma Bhyam Paravara Drishamaya. Thus, I, the perfect seer of everything material and spiritual, have spoken this knowledge of Sankhya, which destroys the illusion of doubt by scientific analysis of creation and annihilation. Lord Sri Krishna has explained that the material mind accepts and rejects many different concepts of life, generating innumerable false arguments about the actual process of perfection. But a person who takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can see everything with clear intelligence. One who understands how the Supreme Lord creates and annihilates can be liberated from material bondage and devote himself to the eternal service of the Supreme Lord. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada to the 11th canto, 24th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Philosophy of Sankhya. So, Sankhya philosophy is given by Krishna himself. And then Kapila Muni also came and described even more elaborately. And if we understand this, how Krishna is saying that everything has come from me, everything is manifest only simply for our sense gratification. And the whole idea is that we go back, we come to our senses and become eternal, not again and again take birth and suffer. People accuse the Lord. How can he be so cruel by creating such misery in the material world? We created it by doing all bad karmas, but out of ignorance. So Krishna, that is why he's constantly giving knowledge through so many sources. Now, one Vedas he gave through Brahma, and then all the Shastras, then so many Puranas, Upanishads, and he's constantly inspiring so many devotees to write, to teach, to take his message in different ways to suit in different levels so that somehow people will wake up. So once we have read this, then he can be liberated from material bondage and devote himself to the eternal service of the Supreme Lord. It's only in ignorance, thinking we are the body, we think, it's so such fun to just relax and chill. That thing we think is enjoyment, or we think, doing lot of activities, going here and there and being very busy. That is happiness. But once we understand that this body is going to be annihilated and I'm not this body, then who am I? I mean, we understand that the soul is only happy in rendering service to the Supreme Lord. He is the cause of all causes. Even if you come, I mean, Sankhya Yoga only goes to the point of telling us that Supreme Lord is the cause of everything. That is not enough. That is only to seek the motivation for us to seek liberation. But actual liberation comes only when we engage in the service of the Lord. That only through Bhakti Yoga we can know. And so then we will become serious about engaging or, having the service attitude of doing everything for Krishna's service. It's not easy. Before chanting Hare Krishna, did we want to do any service? We were only thinking of how to do whatever duty so that we'll enjoy. Everything was about my enjoyment, my happiness. Everything should happen the way I want so that I'll be happy. That was our goal. And now, when we get knowledge, what I want is what the mind is telling me. And that doesn't satisfy the soul. I am not this mind or body, I'm the soul. So, all these things become very clear to understand when we start chanting Hare Krishna mantra. So, Bhakti Yoga is the ultimate which can really liberate us from this material world and make us eternal. No more suffering. Liberated from material bondage, birth, death, old age, disease, constantly repetition, and instead devote himself to the eternal service of the Supreme Lord. Go to chapter 25, the three modes of nature and beyond. Very important. In a very summary way in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has spoken about the modes of material nature. And of course, the last few chapters are all about different divisions of, the three modes, how it operates. Three types of faith, charity, uh, then knowledge, food, so many, three modes, he has said. To establish the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this chapter describes the various functional manifestations of the three modes, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance, which arise in the mind. Control of the mind, control of the senses, tolerance, and so forth are manifestations of the unmixed mode of goodness. Desire, endeavor, false pride, and so on are manifestations of the unmixed mode of passion, and anger, greed, and bewilderment are among the functions of the unmixed mode of ignorance. Pure ignorance, pure passion, pure goodness. In the admixture of the three modes, we find the concept of I and my behavior in accordance. Mm, with this mentality, by body, mind, and words, adherence to the principles of religiosity, economic development, and sense gratification, and the fixed pursuit of one's occupational duty for material interest. A person whose character is in the mode of goodness worships Lord Hari in a spirit of devotion without regard for to profit. On the other hand, one who hankers after the fruits of his worship of the Lord is passionate by nature, and one who desires violence is in the mode of ignorance. These modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance are present in the infinitesimal living entity, whereas the Supreme Personality of God is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. The substance, place, and result of activity along with time, the knowledge underlying action, the activity itself, the performer, his faith, his level of awareness, his spiritual progress, and his destination after death all partake of the three modes of nature and manifest variously in terms of distinctions and hierarchies. But objects related to the Supreme Personality places connected with him, happiness based on him, the time occupied in his worship, knowledge related to him, work offered to him, the performer of work who acts under his shelter, faith in his devotional service, progress towards the spiritual realm, and the destination of the Supreme Lord's personal abode. And they all transcend the material modes. There are many different destinations and conditions of life for the spirit soul within the cycle of material existence. These are all based on the modes of nature and not on fruitive activities. These are all based on the three modes of nature. uh, it is only by practicing the yoga of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord that one can conquer the three modes which arise originally from the mind. After obtaining a human body which has the potential for developing knowledge and realization, a person who is intelligent should renounce association with the three modes of nature and then worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. First, by increasing the mode of goodness, one can defeat passion and ignorance. Then one can conquer material goodness by evolving this consciousness to the platform of transcendence. At that time, he becomes entirely liberated from the material modes, gives up his subtle body, the material mind, intelligence, and false ego, and attains the association of the personality of Godhead. By the shattering of the subtle covering, the living entity is able to come face to face with the Supreme Lord and thus achieve absolute fulfillment by His grace. So the three modes are what is binding us like a rope, like how a rope is made of three three strings. They're stranded like that, coiled up so that they become a rope. So in the same way, and it's bound completely in the same way, this three modes of nature is completely binds us, and we identify ourselves with the three modes. Whatever the body is manifested, our mind, everything. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Gunanam Asamishranam Puman Yena Yata Bhavet Tanme Purushavaryedam Upadharaya Samsata. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O best among men, please listen as I describe to you how the living entity attains a particular nature by association with individual material modes. The word asammishra indicates that which is not mixed with anything else. Lord Krishna now explains how each of the three material modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, acting separately, causes a conditioned soul to manifest a particular type of existence. The living entity is ultimately transcendental to the modes of nature, being part and parcel of Lord Krishna. But in conditioned life, he manifests material qualities. This is described in the following verses. Mm. The living entity is ultimately transcendental, but in conditioned life, he manifests material qualities. So, Karanam Gunasanga, Krishna says, how we get, we associate with a particular mode. So he's saying, please listen as I describe to you how the living entity attains a particular nature by association with the individual material modes. Samodhamastitikshesha tapah satyam daya smriti tushtisthyago aspruha shraddha hrir dayadi swanirvriti kama iha madastrishna stamba asir bidasukam madotsaho yasha pritir hasyam viryam balodyama क्रोधो लोभो अनृतां हिंसा याचना दम्भ क्लमकली शोकमोहौ विषादार्ति निद्रासाभिरनुद्यमा सत्त्वस्य रजसश्चैतास् tamasas purvasha vrittayo varnita praya sannipatam atoshrunu. Mind and sense control. Tolerance. Mind itself is actually in the mode of goodness. Intelligence is in the mode of passion, and false ego is in the mode of ignorance. So, mind and sense control, tolerance, discrimination, sticking to one's prescribed duty, truthfulness, mercy, careful study of the past and future, satisfaction in any condition, generosity, renunciation of sense gratification, faith in the spiritual master, being embarrassed at improper action, charity, simplicity, humbleness, and satisfaction within oneself are qualities of the mode of goodness. So we know this and we should try to cultivate this. Of course, it happens when we do bhakti, but we can also, because if you associate with that particular mode, then we will also develop. And mode of goodness is very congenial for progressing in Krishna consciousness. Material desire, a great endeavor, audacity, dissatisfaction even in gain. Whatever you get, still you're dissatisfied. False pride, praying for material advancement, considering oneself different and better than others. Sense gratification, a rash eagerness to fight, a fondness for hearing oneself praised, the tendency to ridicule others, advertising one's own prowess, and justifying one's actions by one's strength are qualities of the mode of passion. Justifying actions by one's strength means that's it. You show your dadagiri, your strength, and you don't, that's it. Might is right. That's in the mode of passion. Intolerant anger, stinginess, speaking without scriptural authority, violent hatred, living as a parasite, hypocrisy, chronic fatigue, quarrel, lamentation, delusion, unhappiness, depression, sleeping too much, false expectations, fear, and laziness constitute the major qualities of the mode of ignorance. Now, please hear about the combination of these three modes. So, we don't have only one mode, we have combination, everyone, even the topmost person, Brahmaji also. You will have the three modes, maybe 99% or 99.99 of goodness, but a little bit of also passion. I know about ignorance. That's why he had little ignorance. And that's why he got attracted to his own daughter. Like sometimes he makes, that's very, very rare, but very small, minute quality of even Tamoguna and Rajoguna. So then he is saying how the combination of these three modes. Sannipatastva aham iti mameti uddhava yamati vyavahara sannipato mano matendriya shubhi. My dear Uddhava, the combination of all three modes is present in the mentality of I and mine, the ordinary transactions of this world, which are carried out through the agency of the mind, the objects of perception, the senses, and the vital airs of the physical body, are also based on the combination of the modes. The illusory concepts of I and mine occurs by the mixture of the three modes of nature. A person in goodness may feel, I'm peaceful. One in passion may think, I'm lusty. And one in ignorance may think, I'm angry. Similarly, one may think, my peace, my lust, or my anger. One completely absorbed in the mentality of being peaceful could not work in the material world. He would lack any impulse to perform activity. Similarly, one absorbed in lust would be blinded without at least a tinge of uh, peacefulness or restraint. One overwhelmed with anger could not function properly in the material world without the mixture of other qualities. Thus, we find that a material mode does not occur in a pure, isolated form, but rather is mixed with other modes, thereby making possible normal functioning within this world. Ultimately, one should think, I'm an eternal servant of Lord Krishna, and my only possession is loving service to the Lord. Um, this is the pure state of consciousness beyond the material modes of nature. So, modes of nature, if somebody was essentially only mode of goodness, then he won't even feel like being in this material world or do anything very good. He doesn't want anything material. And mode of passion means overcome by lust and without any restraint or peacefulness. He has to have that also, so that, there will be a balance, or tamoguna, too much of it without other two qualities. Also, anger, for example, anger cannot function properly in the material world without a mixture of the other qualities. Ultimately, one should think, I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, to go beyond the three material modes. But knowing that, that these three modes are only operating on us, we should not give too much weightage to what the mind tells us. And that's why we should surrender to Krishna and consider everything from the spiritual platform. So, of course, mode of goodness is very good, but sometimes even mode of goodness may overlook spiritual injunction. Like, for example, um, mm, yeah, and the more someone in the mode of goodness may be very, very peaceful, and he doesn't want any disturbance. For the sake of Krishna, also, he will not. Arjuna was asked to fight for the sake of Krishna. Okay, he was a Kshatriya, but so totally in the mode of goodness, then transcendentally, even if we have to, sometimes we have to take actions, sometimes we have to, um, assert ourselves or be engaged in activity. So we need a little mix of mode of passion also, so that, we'll have an incentive to do it. Even if we are very, very peaceful, then, but for the sake of Krishna, okay, I will also march. Come, let's go on a protest march. Say we have to do something like that. So then, okay, no problem. For Krishna's sake, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took the march, protesting against the Kazi, and all the devotees joined him. So for so that is why all the three are mixed together, and so many varieties of natures we have. Because the proportions it is like, more of good, how many percentage, what percentage of goodness, what percentage of passion, what percentage of ignorance, like that in each one. Just imagine how many varieties we can create. So that's how Krishna has created. Each one's nature varies according to the levels, proportions of the modes. And he says, um, ultimately, one should think, I'm an eternal servant of Krishna, and my possession is loving service to the Lord. This is the pure state of consciousness beyond the material modes of nature. So it doesn't mean that we started chanting Hare Krishna, doing devotional service, we are pure devotees. We are being affected by the three modes, mixed along with our devotional service also. Mishra Bhakti, one in the mode of goodness, more mode of goodness, he is satisfied. I will do everything without wanting some returns for it. Every time I did this, why didn't Krishna give me that? Or why don't other people give me? I did for them, they didn't do for me. All these things. That won't be there. In mode of goodness, one is very peaceful, satisfied. I'll do my service, very calm, and he just wants to make spiritual progress. Mode of passion, a lot of longings and desires, even through devotional service. Or we ups and swings, sometimes very, very enthusiastic, sometimes very dull, like that. And or thinking everything is for my enjoyment. You do, whatever you do, you still think I should only enjoy it. So that's in the mode of passion. Whatever we may want, or maybe name, fame, position, um, being glorified. That is also, he said, mode of passion. We love to be glorified. So we can also think if our mind wants something which is in the mode of passion and ignorance, then we can say, no, this highest mode, I want to be act in the mode of goodness. I'm not going to listen to my mind, which forces us, pushes us. No, 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 you should get me this. Then we should analyze what is the mind wanting? Which mode is it? And no, I will not respond to modes of Rajoguna and Tamoguna because I want to become transcendental. And for that, we have to come to the mode of goodness. Then only our devotional service will be accepted. Right now, we're just doing something because it's all mixed. We can't go back to Godhead with this kind of service. We have to come to the platform of whatever service may be do. Quantity is not the criteria as much as is quality. Are we doing it fully as a servant of Krishna, only for his pleasure? Then only we are eligible to going back to Godhead. Otherwise, maybe we'll go to the heavenly planets. Mode of passion. There are some devotees who really want position, power, name, fame, and all that. They will go to the heavenly planets and they will become maybe one of those devatas, or they'll have some position, power, opulence. So unless we come to the mode of goodness, it's not that simply I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'll go back to Godhead. What about we have to do pure devotional service? And so we have to elevate our consciousness to the mode of goodness. And we must very strongly believe in that and not get carried away. Oh, they're all doing now. So many devotees are doing. I'm also tempted. Doesn't mean that if everybody is doing wrong things, it becomes right. You have to, at the time of death, everyone has to face. You can't say, oh, all the devotees in my, whoever I knew, they also did. So why you're taking me? Why you're not liberating me? You can't ask that. You did it, finished. You have to suffer. So why do we? So we have to look for how to get mode of goodness. We have to keep inspiring ourselves so that we'll keep, take the examples wherever they exist, mode of goodness, and be inspired by that. And mode of goodness only will give you success ultimately. Mode of passion, the Bhagavad Gita it says, in the beginning, it'll seem like nectar, but end it's poison. And the mode of goodness, initially, oh, everything for no, no sense gratification. Everything is only for Krishna. The mind may rebel, but so initially like poison because no sense gratification, but at the end it's nectar because we get spiritual happiness from that. So like this, we have to be very strong, and then we would really take seriously because chanting is the one thing. A Brahma Muhurta, you get up and you chant. That's how we increase our mode of goodness and associating with Vaishnavas, planning services for the Lord. Even with Vaishnavas, if you're not meeting them for doing services, but simply sit and talk. What did you do today? Which shops do you go to? And then exchange and then forwards on CC, something very superficial. Then that is not going to help us. Association must be to help one another. Let's do some service together. Then it's very, very good, wonderful. We should get inspired and inspire others. Let's progress in Krishna consciousness. Let's do something for Krishna. That must be only basis of association. And so in this way, we can transcend. Otherwise, we'll be stuck up Yeah, you said we have to associate. I'm associating. What you're doing in the association? Are you sitting and gossiping? Who did what? How that devotee didn't do properly, and this devotee fell down, and somebody is very bad, and all those things. If we are doing, then that is not association. That is going to hell. B- so no need to associate only that kind of association. But something which, or let's enjoy, let's go. We're all devotees. Together, we'll go shopping together, we'll go for movies together, we'll go eat in restaurants together. That's not association. I mean, okay, that's okay. No, I'm not going with karmis, I'm going only with devotees. That is also not, what's the use? Okay, maybe you won't do so many sinful activities, but association means that it should help us to elevate our consciousness. And if somebody is putting some dirty ideas, we should stop it. No, no, no. I don't think it's right. That's why more is better than one person. It's very difficult to, alone, the mind will come up with so many negative thoughts and wanting to do something, like tamoguna things may come. But if you are with other people, and then even one person in the group says, gee, it's not correct, we shouldn't do that, then we must see on what platform are they saying. Whoever is giving mode of goodness, that's what we should accept, and we must only look for that. If somebody is giving all things, in the mode of passion and mode of tamoguna ideas, then we should say no. We should not do this. We must do it in sattva guna. So that's how strength. We get the strength in doing things together. If all of us are determined that we want to progress, let us do something. Let us read together. Let us chant together. Let us preach. Like this, if we motivate each other, then it's wonderful. Association really very easily we can progress. Even reading books, instead of, okay, you just take a phone call and I want to associate with all devotees. Everything, just make phone calls and talk. What did you cook today? Oh, what dress you bought? Which shop you went? And all these things. Instead, if you say, okay, shall we read that book? I'm not able to read on my own. I keep thinking I should read. Never read. Let's read together. It should only Association should only uplift us. Otherwise, it's useless. Simply go to hell together or don't progress. Simply stagnate. So that's how we should be very sensitive to what mode we are operating. Anybody tries to gossip or try to denounce somebody, then we should say, it's okay, let's think of something else. I mean, change the topic and say, no, no. Or you say, let us see it in a mode of goodness way, how we can help this person instead of condemning them and finding fault and then labeling them and then being nasty to them. Instead of doing that, let us try to help this person. So everything must be in the mode of goodness. Catch yourself doing something in the mode of tamoguna, rajoguna. We're all mixed modes. So anything, sometimes rajoguna will defeat the other two modes. Sometimes tamoguna will defeat rajoguna and sattvaguna. Sometimes sattvaguna will defeat the other two. So anytime mind will come up with any guna, and we should recognize which guna is coming. Okay, no, I will not accept this. We should do it everything in sattvaguna. Then we can advance, because sattva guna very easy. Main sattva guna to meditate on Krishna, do everything for his pleasure. Okay, stop now. And we can, if we just determine, if we are determined, we can. I want to be very, very clean and keep everything very neat and tidy for the pleasure of Krishna. So all that is sattva guna. So we can make up resolutions like that. Everything in sattva guna. I'm not going to tell lies, even white lies. I'll try to see how best to tell the truth in a proper way so that I never tell lies. That's another sattva guna resolution. Or simply desiring something or the other, mind will tell, oh, I wish I had this. They bought this now. I also should have. Why they are having so much? Why not? All this rajoguna things. No, let me be in sattva guna. And where I'm thinking about my self realization, happy with whatever Krishna has given me, and try to serve him more. Like that, we have to constantly check which mode am I operating. Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, we pray for His Holiness Jatak Swami for his complete recovery, good health, longevity, protection from all diseases, and also good health and protection from all diseases for his servants. And we pray for good health, well-being, longevity, protection from all diseases, and speedy recoveries for all Prabhupada disciples, for all our devotees and their families. And we also pray for peace and harmony within Bharat, so that there's no terrorist attacks and all that, and then also peacefulness all over the world, and real Ram Rajya within India. So let us chant 3 times Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna
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 Krishna,
Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare. Okay. Okay, then we pray for okay, for the center to be ready soon, and everything should work very nicely, and our preaching should go on very nicely. And we pray for also Lingaraj Dham for their preaching to go on very nicely, and for Srila Prabhupada Dham for their preaching to go on very nicely, and also for Touchstone School and Kidzin School should do very well. So let us chant 3 times Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama Hare Rama
Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Then we pray for Rasashekar Prabhu's speedy recovery, Srinivas Prabhu's completely